The golden arches at midnight. It begins the way all cursed things do, ordinary, innocent, almost laughably mundane. A McDonald's off a lonely highway in Ohio, its neon arches glowing against a dead stretch of road. Drivers pull in for fries, kids beg for Happy Meals, and the hum of fryers fills the air. But ask the night shift crew, the ones who stay long after midnight, and they'll tell you that the arches don't just welcome customers, they welcome something else. Something that should never be fed. The first story comes from Tyler, a teenager working the fryer. His shift ended past 2 a.m., but he lingered because his manager begged him to clean the freezer. The walk-in freezer with its heavy steel door and its humming silence. Tyler swore the cold felt different that night, sharper, biting into his bones like 1,000 needles. As he stacked boxes of patties, the light flickered. Then he heard it. Breathing. Not his own, not in rhythm with his panic. Slow, ragged inhalations behind him. He turned and nothing stood there. Yet frost crept across the door's glass window, spelling words that hadn't been there before. Let me out. The second story is from Maria, a customer. She stopped at the same McDonald's after a late shift, ordering a coffee to keep herself awake on the drive home. She sat alone in the corner booth, scrolling her phone. That's when she noticed him, an old man in a tattered suit, sitting across the dining room, staring. She thought maybe he was homeless, maybe just lost. But when she glanced down at her phone and looked back, the booth was empty. She hadn't seen him move, hadn't heard a sound. Still, her coffee steamed, and across the table sat a single receipt that hadn't been there before. Typed on it were the words, "You're next." Then there was Jamal, the overnight manager. He had keys to everything, including the basement. Most people didn't know McDonald's even had basements, but older buildings often do. This one had a staircase hidden behind a storage rack, the kind employees avoid. Jamal went down there once, just once, when the breaker tripped. He found walls lined with peeling clown posters, their smiles twisted, faded from decades of rot. As he reached for the fuse box, his flashlight beam caught something in the corner, a figure crouched low with a painted grin too wide for its face. He swore it whispered, "Order up," before the light blew out. And then the security tapes. Every night at 3:15 a.m. the cameras catch something moving in the lobby. Not a person, not an employee. A shadow crawling on the walls, stretching long fingers across the menu boards. Sometimes the Happy Meal display tips over on its own. Sometimes the fryer turns on by itself, grease bubbling though no one is near. And sometimes, worst of all, the cameras show a child. Alone. Standing by the ball pit that hasn't existed for years. But the fifth story, the fifth is the one they don't tell customers. The one that keeps employees quitting after only a week. A boy named Ethan dared his coworkers to play hide and seek after closing. He slipped into the play area, laughing as he crawled through tunnels slick with age. The laughter stopped when his friend followed him in and found the tunnel empty. They searched everywhere, the kitchen, the bathrooms, even outside in the parking lot. No Ethan. When police checked the tapes, they saw him climb inside the tunnel, but they never saw him come out. The camera only showed darkness swallowing him whole, and a second later, a hand gripping the edge of the slide. A hand that wasn't his. If you think this story is terrifying, you're nowhere near prepared for what comes next. Make sure you subscribe because this nightmare isn't over. It's just beginning. The thing that feeds. The stories lingered like grease on the skin, but what bound them together wasn't coincidence. It was hunger. Something inside that McDonald's had been waiting for decades, watching through the flicker of fluorescent lights, crouching in the dark beyond the fryer's hum. It started with the freezer. Tyler quit after the frost wrote those words, but the next crew found the freezer colder than ever, so cold it burned through gloves. The boxes of patties began to arrive spoiled, meat blackened as if something gnawed at it before the trucks even pulled in. Workers whispered that the freezer wasn't holding food anymore, it was feeding something that pressed its breath against the metal walls from the other side. Maria never returned either, but weeks later, a different customer complained about her coffee tasting wrong. When the cup was checked, it wasn't coffee at all. It was water, cloudy and dark, with long strands of black hair floating inside. On the bottom of the cup, scrawled in grease, was the same phrase, "You're next." Jamal, the manager, tried to ignore the whispers from the basement. He told himself it was pipes or rats or his own tired mind. But then employees started reporting voices through the headsets in the drive-thru, voices not connected to any car. Orders like "one sole extra crispy," followed by distorted laughter. When Jamal finally went downstairs again, the clown posters had changed. The eyes now followed him, bulging, and fresh red paint dripped down the smiles. But it wasn't paint. The air smelled of copper and salt. The security tapes grew worse. The child by the ball pit started moving closer, frame by frame, night after night. Its head tilted, its mouth stretched, and its eyes were nothing but black voids. On the 7th night, the child wasn't just on camera anymore. The cook swore he saw it standing by the counter, whispering his name. When he turned to run, he slipped, and the fryer hissed to life, splattering oil onto his arms though no one touched the switch. And Ethan? The boy who disappeared in the tunnels? His voice still echoes after midnight. Workers say they hear him calling for help from the play area that doesn't exist anymore, crying out from behind plastic walls that were torn down years ago. One janitor swore he crawled through an air vent to follow the sound. When he returned, his hair had turned white, his eyes unfocused. He repeated the same phrase until the day he quit. It's not him anymore. The 5th story ends with silence. Because the building is empty now. The McDonald's stands abandoned, boarded up, arches still faintly glowing though no power runs to them. Teenagers dare each other to break in, but not all of them come back. Inside, the booths are overturned, Happy Meal boxes scattered across the floor. The freezer hums though no one plugs it in. And the basement door, it stays open, just a crack, enough to show a painted smile waiting in the dark. You can hear it, can't you? That whisper under your breath. The faint scrape behind your chair. You think you're alone, but you're not. Because the thing that fed in that McDonald's is hungry still. And now that you've listened, it knows your name. You feel it, don't you? The cold creeping along your spine. The whisper. You're not alone anymore. And now, neither am I. If you dare to know more, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You'll need it.